Hi, I'm Susan Hennessey. I work for the Tarrant Institute for Innovative Education. That's at the University of Vermont. And we're lucky enough to work with middle-level educators and students all around the state to have them be thinking about self-directed, engaged, project-based, and technology-rich work. So I'm really interested in digital badging and micro-credentialing in the sort of Act 77 environment. And I've been paying attention to badges for a bit because for me, I think it's super important for any learner to really understand what the target is and what it would look like to achieve something. So what badges, if you think about Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and if you were to earn the badge, it's super clear what skill you would be able to do. There would be exemplars around what it might look like if it were done well, and then I can figure out a pathway to be able to do that. So the badge itself is a marker of achievement, and frankly, it doesn't have to be digitized. There's just some I think efficiencies around that and the ability to share widely with a different audience than if I were to just have it on a sash or wear it proudly on a bag or something like that. So there's a big connection with micro-credentialing and badging in the workforce now. So people are spending a lot of time and frankly capital to earn skills badges so that they can distinguish themselves when they go in for an interview. And I'm imagining something similar like that for students when they're thinking about portfolio work. Not just to distinguish themselves, but to be really clear about, listen, this is the skill set that I have in this context. And so wouldn't it be neat to have a portfolio that not only shows the scores and the grade point average that I have, if we still have a grade point average, right, in a proficiency-based way, but also I've got these indicators that are really clear for you to see what I can do. And so if you want to take the time to do that, you could actually click on a digital badge, and it could show you the product of something that I've created, and that I can then speak to you about why I have these certain skill sets as well. So it might be something like I know how to code in Python, or it might be something like I'm a change agent in my school, right? And so I'm really persuasive around something, and here's my product, and I'm going to talk about my dispositions and skills as well. So the thing about badges I think that are important is when you're planning for one, you have to think about who's offering the badge, right? Who's the authority figure who's basically saying this we can create some kind of learning experience for you and it's going to be good and worthy. So think about NASA or think about Smithsonian. They've created these history quests where you can earn these badges, right? Then the person, the earner of the badge, has to have a way to be able to keep those badges and then basically display them somewhere. So think about in school settings, it's like a portfolio, right? And then there needs to be a currency for that. So first of all, there's inherent like excitement and motivation for me to do something, and I want to earn this thing. I'd like to then display it somehow, and maybe that might be when I go for a job interview. It might be when I'm going putting my transcript together for going to college. It might be when I'm trying to get a mentorship. I actually really want to articulate clearly what I know and can do. Frankly, transcripts don't do that very well. They really don't in other contexts, right? So IBM has issued something like 50 million badges at this point. And so they put out for free for anybody to take these online little courses where they get badges. You don't even have to work for IBM. But then you can put it on your LinkedIn page or you can put it on your email. And what's happening is human resources are starting to look and do some database searching on LinkedIn and trying to find these badges, and then it helps people get jobs. Another thing about in the workforce when people are earning micro-credentials and badges, it's the metadata baked in of what you know and the skills for keyword searches. When human resource folks do a big old search, database search for resumes, like somebody's not just sorting them in paper piles anymore, right? So the keywords that pop from inside the digital badge allow them to rise to the top. So one of the things about badges is it's through an equity lens that's super exciting for me, is that people aren't looking necessarily at first at a resume and something pops for them about a bias, an implicit or explicit bias. It's actually the skill is rising to the top because of the way you've been able to create those badges. I feel like I've rambled a teeny bit, so I'm going to try to see if I can kind of refocus. So back in the school system, we are shifting in Vermont to this proficiency-based learning. And to me, what that means is it's super clear to kids, any learner, frankly, what they need to know, understand, and do. We've got to get everyone there. Okay. In the past, we would label that, but then some kids wouldn't get there, and we'd move on. And now the onus of mastery is on us. And so that's really exciting for me. But I actually need a way to have the learner know markers of growth as they're going along, and sometimes in a self-paced way. So I might create a badge system where there are micro-credentials, small chunks of activities and things that you need to learn and understand before you can actually do it. And so I have ways in my classroom to actually deliver this kind of content that kids can come in and out of it, if you will. They get that certain marker of growth and they know they're ready to move on. So it's a really interesting way to be really clear about a path for learning. We're working with outside of school learning providers as well. So think about 4-H or VEET, Vermont Energy Education Program, or Young Writers Project, if you will. What's the story? They're all thinking about how they can articulate what skills and dispositions and learning would happen if you did this outside of school learning. And then you come back into your school and you can basically say, I should get credit for this, right? So what's the system in school right now when I put this on a portfolio that will allow you to say to me, that's wonderful, you can either move on to another class. Like there's something in the currency of that too that's really exciting. I'm going to do a quick shout out for this book. It's called Demonstrating Student Mastery with Digital Badges and Portfolios. And the thing that I like about that is it gives the definition, probably in a more articulate way than I just did, about the reasons why you might want to think about micro-credentialing with students. But it also then makes it clear the system is about portfolio work. So when I display this, what does this mean for me? My fear is sometimes people start to do micro-credentialing and badging on things that we already know. Like you're already getting a 4 or an A for it, right? Like, but why don't we find, so we have a number of schools that are saying, well, we get these transferable skills or these learning expectations, right? At the end of when you graduate, you need to actually show that you're an integrative thinker. Or you need to be able to show that you are a problem solver, an effective communicator. And here's one of the ways that you can actually show that. You can earn a badge from an outside learning provider, something inside the school for a course, and that gives you the chance to tell your story outside of being bounded in just coursework. So that's exciting for me too. So one thing that I feel really strongly about, and a number of networked folks I work with are really trying to tackle this with badging and micro-credentialing, is that there's not access to equitable learning opportunities, whether it's because you're in a rural school or students just don't know that these certain things exist, and so that they can learn in multiple different ways. So if we can actually clarify what all of those opportunities are by turning them into badges, when you actually create a badge, you have to backwards plan. This is what you've got. These are the things that are going to get you there. And sometimes kids don't know what they don't know, or they don't know how to ask. And if a school system makes that super clear that this is an array of all of these multiple learning opportunities, and even if a kid doesn't necessarily advocate for themselves, they get a chance to see that, and they can see their friends earning those badges, and they can say, wow, this is an alternative pathway for me. But yeah, so it just opens up visually, and there's been some research done on this, that students, again, who don't necessarily advocate for themselves, when they see others, they get a sense of, oh, this is the path. Oh, I can do this now, and I know how to do it. So it's exciting for me. I think the one last thing is sometimes people worry about they don't understand how to code something, or the platforms would be complicated about that. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. A lot of teachers are actually just using Google Sites, and they're just making clearly in the sequence of instruction, and then using some kind of Google form, or it can be fairly simple. But what it is it's backwards planning really clearly what you want kids to know, understand, and do. It's best practice when you actually create these kinds of systems. And so teachers really get excited because they realize, wow, this is actually unit planning I done well.